Hi there, it's Kevin with Rogue Deckbuilder. So I think everyone enjoyed my outdoor video last time. So this is the only way we're getting a video today because we were busy with the store and all of the other things going on that we're finally out getting the dogs for a walk. So I'm gonna bring back my good old rants that I used to do on this channel. As you can look at the beautiful scenery with the sunset going on here in beautiful Richfield, Utah. Out here with the dogs, and I am going to rant about Standard. So as you may know, as you saw probably in my last video, I've been playing Standard on Arena and I've really dipped my toes into the format again. And of course that comes with its own can of worms, as now I've got to realize some of the problematic cards in Standard. And after looking at meta results, after looking at tournament results, and a lot of the decks have tried to adjust. Like I know that Mono Red has tried to adjust, and I was playing against some decks that have really tried to hate out Jeskai, or not Jeskai, excuse me, Izzet Prowess, which still seems to be the boogeyman of the format. And like, I know it's not unbeatable. It doesn't have the win percentage domination that we've seen in years of the past where cards need to get banned. It hasn't become stale like I'd even say the last bans that came during the Kamigawa era. So I think we're in pretty good shape as far as Standard concerned, but I am actually in the boat, in the camp of when cards start to become problematic and push other strategies out, and where the meta inevitably begins to become stale and you still have an entire year because none of these cards on my list are going to rotate, then I think you should be addressing the problem, nipping in the butt before sooner than later. But I know that Wizards hates to ban cards, but if I were in charge, here are my top 5 cards that I think are ban worthy out of the Standard format. We got Talmadge here too, that maybe can back me up with some of these. I think we're missing a dog.
I just saw her.
Come on, Chloe!
She's way back there.
I'm gonna have to go back and get a dog. It's obsessed with picking rocks out of the river. So anyway, let's get over and I'll try to give you my justification of these cards. Now the first card that I'm going to talk about, I actually love, and I put it in almost every deck. And every time I build decks, it's like, oh man, I just want to throw this card in because of the value. It's just such a value engine. And I'm a huge synergy player, so cards that have a lot of synergy are cards that I love to brew around. Unfortunately, this card is such a duh card that it's being thrown in decks that it doesn't really have much synergy. It's just a good card. And that the first one is Stormchaser's Talent. Maybe I'll put like the card up here post-editing of what I'm talking about. So Stormchaser's Talent is out of Bloomburrow. It's one of the talents that immediately drops a 1/1 prowess for 1. And like a 1/1 prowess for 1 used to be super playable in Standards in the past. I mean, that was that was kind of the litmus test for like a 1-drop. Of course, Swiftspear was the one that did it the best with haste, and just being a 1/2, which dodged a lot of the shock effects. You could then just cast a prowess spell. So I get like the Monster Swiftspear checks a lot of boxes that a 1/1 without haste doesn't have, but basically in a lot of scenarios it's a Swiftspear. It's as strong as a Swiftspear, just being a 1 with prowess. The fact that then you can then bounce it back with other cards or flicker it with other cards and create another 1/1, but on top of that you're getting a prowess trigger off of, so it's a non-creature spell that's triggering all of your other prowess cards, and you can start to layer just so many problems with how this card is just going to push other 1-drops and strategies out of the way. And then when you get to the 4 mana, where then you can get back an instant or sorcery spell, and then eventually you get up to the 6 mana, which actually happens a lot of the games where you're pumping out a prowess creature every time you cast a spell. And I just think that the power level of this card is above and beyond most cards out of Standard. So in my list, I think this is the least problematic card because it's the most interactive. It's the one that leads to the best board game states, and for that reason it's my number 5. I just think that Stormchaser's Talent is just too pushed for Standard. And again, I've been begging for a format. I've just had to come to terms with Standard is modern of the past with a turn 4 format. Like, you have to be interacting, you have to be removing 1s and 2-drops very proactively when you have 2s and 3-drops that can kill you within just a few turns. And so it's a different beast than Standards of yesteryear, but even Stormchaser's Talent I think is just above and beyond most cards in that 1-drop slot. So on to my number 4. My number 4 is going to be a card that I just cannot believe exists. I don't know why it exists. It's Boros Reckoner that then is given haste and can't gain life after you hit it. And so this is going to be the, what's the card now? The Screaming Nemesis. I had a brain fart there. Screaming Nemesis, which is just printed out of Dustmorn. And I can't believe I missed this card during like spoiler seasons. But this is another card that's like every deck is just running it because they can run it. I see so many lists, like I was looking at the Boros Monument deck and they're like, okay, they're just running it. And it has no synergy with discard outlets or anything else the deck wants to be doing. It's just a card that then prevents your opponents from having any sort of life gain strategy, which is typically what beats red decks. And I think there should be, like the whole power of red decks is to push through control before control can stabilize, or have some ways to get damage around. Like the whole theory of red deck wins is getting it for early damage, and then you can back it up with damage to the face. And it seems like the Screaming Nemesis just does it all. You can't block the damn thing, because if you block it, you're taking a big chunk of damage to the face. There's a lot of synergy with even killing your own Screaming Nemesis. You can use cards that just do damage particularly to the creature. Like I remember one game, I died to, they attacked and didn't block it because it would have taken damage, and they scorched it. So it did 5 damage to it, and then it does another 5 damage to the face, right? Because it doesn't do it, the sources. No, it doesn't do the sources. Yeah, so it's a little even different from Boros Reckoner. And I mean, it's just talking about a push card. And I probably should have this higher up on the list, but I think these other cards are actually even more egregious than the Screaming Nemesis for just the 3/3 haste. 3/3 haste for 3 is actually just really good by itself. I mean, there have been formats where those have been justifiable just to run. Like there's just slightly another upside to that 3/3 haster. I mean, it's perfectly on curve and does exactly what like a red deck wins wants to do, like an aggro deck wants to do. So, yeah, and it's been showing up now in even prowess decks. They're just like, oh, might as well throw it in, even though it doesn't work with all these other cards. It's just that powerful of a card. On to my number 3, which is another prowess target, which is going to be the Cori-Steel Cutter. This one is just sees legacy play, and this power level is just insane for standard, especially when you have 2 cantrips in the form of Sleight of Hand and Opt. It's just too stinking good. And then the synergy with the other cards that I mentioned already in this list, or especially the Stormchaser talent, where you can chain off cards and have a 2/2 that's attacking in, and that 2/2 becomes a 3/3 or 4/4 no problem because it has prowess, and it just grinds out games. It's required so much hate. If you look like people playing High Noons in the main, or Magebane Lizards in the main, you know there's a problem when you have to hate out a deck that much. And typically the black decks were competing decently well against the red decks. Well, now that you add on prowess, like the mono black decks are doing really horrible with the UR prowess, because it still is going to be able to race them before they get out their big dumb creatures. They're, the demons, what made demons so good is you drop your 4-drop and it'll kill you in 2 or 3 turns. But I might have to go this way. Come on, dogs. All right, sorry, we had an incident with dogs. So anyway, so yeah, Cori-Steel Cutter is it just does everything. The value that it creates, and it's just incredibly aggressive by itself. Like, again, a 2/2 prowesser, because it attaches after you've cast the 2 spells, which is super easy and standard with cards like Opt and Sleight of Hand used to be too good for standard. I know Opt was kind of the card they printed to be strictly worse than like Preordain or Ponder, but Sleight of Hand was incredibly strong, and they've reprinted that into standard, as now it's playable. And you can see that these casting 2 spells in a turn is not difficult whatsoever. And what really pushes the Steel Cutter over the top is the trample, because now you have another card that's incredibly hard to chump block. Like, chump blocking is you used to play a lot of cards like, a lot of like 1/1s. I remember like the Ravenous Rasp was so good because it discarded a card and chump blocked. Well, now with red, with everything having trample, those cards have been completely pushed out. And so Cori-Steel Cutter, haste, trample, prowess thing coming out. It's just, like, there are so many games too that just equipping 2 to a creature to give it trample and haste is incredibly strong by itself, with other cards coming down. So Cori-Steel Cutter is just in a classification of its own. Again, I think it leads to at least more interesting board states. Well, probably not. Like it's just too powerful of an engine for standard, or where I think the power level should be for standard. So what could be worse than those two cards? And I am very surprised that my number 2 has not been banned, because I think even with dragons, it gets a lot worse because of the split cards that, or what do you call the hybrid cards that have the 2 in their cost, and the mana that you can cast instead of 2. But if you read the converted mana cost of that card, the converted mana cost is actually going to be, 6 on these cards rather than 3. Even though you're casting them for 3, they are on the stack as 6s, and it triggers the Up the Beanstalk. And so I do not know how Up the Beanstalk has not been. Has it been banned in like Pioneer or Modern yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But it's been on definitely on the discussion for those formats. And Up the Beanstalk just has plenty of cards in standard that it's just abusing it right now. And the overlords are the big problem. But now with dragons coming out, and again, the problem with the cards on these lists is these things aren't going to rotate. And what I've been actually looking at is I don't know how much the meta is going to change. There are a few, like Monstrous Rage, of course, is a card that is gone after rotation, but arguably it's not even that good. And there's like red decks that actually prefer like Slick Shot over it, or like some of the prowess decks will run the Drake or the Drake Hatcher or the Swiss or the Slick Shot over it if they want to go more over the top. And it doesn't have as much synergy with the Cori-Steel Cutter, but it does still, like these other bigger creatures, have more oomph. And so we lose like what? We lose Swift Spear, we lose the 6/6 Demon out of one of the Phyrexian sets with the oil counters on it. I think it was all will be one. But other than that, it's like there are a lot of stuff. Cut Down, I guess we lose, which is actually going to make red decks even stronger without that kind of silver bullet to those. So I think that leaving a card around like Up the Beanstalk is going to continue to, like, it really makes it rough for all these other cards that can be cheated in with converted mana cost being reduced by different stuff. So you see the Tellurian Terrors, you see there's black cards that can be reduced by how many cards you have in your graveyard with these like Delirium or these like Graveyards Matter strategy. And the Up to Beanstalk just gets so much value. And I think we're just all tired of it because we saw Domain last with Atraxa last rotation that was super prevalent. And this is a card that I think doesn't lead to interesting board states. It just leads to things snowballing and just provides too much value, in my opinion, for one card, for just a 2-drop enchantment that doesn't have any drawbacks to it. And as I stated, you reduce things like, I know that this town ain't big enough. Synergy with it by bouncing it back and drawing a card. Like the value is just insane with Up the Beanstalk. And so I don't know, for that reason, I think it was just like, I don't know if Wizards really anticipated this, that it was like, okay, we're gonna want it to be used with all these. I mean, it's plaguing Modern, or with the, it's banned in Modern. Yes, that's what I thought, because there's so many ways to just abuse it. And in Standard, every set, they seem to be like, this seems to be a theme with Standard. They keep printing these cards that can be cheated out, and then Up to Beanstalk just really enables them. So I wouldn't mind to see that card go. I think that the Overlord's decks would be a lot more compatible with like Control, being able to actually, and other decks too, like force, they wouldn't just have a handful of 7 and have Overlords that are ticking down at all times if Up the Beanstalk wasn't in that deck. So what card can be, and maybe I'll, instead of looking at my ugly face, we'll look at this beautiful sunset here. What card, in my opinion, is worse than Up the Beanstalk? It is the absolute, we lost a dog again. Which one we lose? We lost the Scout. What card in the world can be worse than Up the Beanstalk or Screaming Nemesis? And that's the biggest duh card ever. And that is Monstrous Rage. How? I do not know. I mean, this card's been around a while now. Has a whole another year before it rotates. It's banned in Historic, is what you said? Monstrous Rage is like banned in Historic, or And they've still, my biggest problem I have with Monstrous Rage is it has like, there are like 10 cards that could easily go in that slot and only slightly be worse. But that slightly worse is like, there are decks that are just like, oh, like look at, like I've seen Boros, like again, going back to Boros Monument, I've seen Boros Monument decks put in Monstrous Rage just because of how stupidly powerful that card is. Where, you know, these aren't turn your card sideways decks that are running Monstrous Rage. You see, Prowess decks didn't at first run Monstrous Rage. A lot of decks were like, okay, I'd rather have like card draw, that would be more grindy. And it's like, nah, it's got too much synergy with the Slickshot Show Off or the Drake Catcher, even the Swiftspear, or even just the Cori-Steel Cutter that makes it just a shoe-in that you have to play Monstrous Rage. And again, these decks would have to then make the decision. You have the +3/+0 that leaves back a dude if it dies. There's so many cards that can kind of play this role, but that extra that extra 1 toughness that you get for the Monstrous Rage that takes Swiftspear above, like Torch the Tower and some of these other, like Cut Down too. It makes Cut Down so miserable to try to figure out if it's going to get above, because the Monstrous Rage just provides more. But again, the problem with Monstrous Rage is that stupid trample. It makes chump blocking impossible. It sticks around. The trample is not till end of turn trample. It's permanent trample. That's where the roll, the monstrous roll, sticks around, and then from then on out, it's just a miserable target that you have to. It's like we went through a part of the meta where you had to play black. You had to be playing ultimate prices and cut downs, and or if you're into blue, you have to be bouncing it with Into the Flood Maw, and it's just created the scenario. If you look at the meta, that it's like 40%, over 40%. We're up to almost 45, 50% of the decks are running Monstrous Rage. When you take into account all the mono reds, the Gruuls, the Boros Mice, as I stated, like even Boros Monument decks from time to time you'll be seeing are throwing in Monstrous Rages because like, we're a semi-aggro deck. We might as well throw this card in to be, even more crazy. And yeah, at this point, it's just, when's enough? And as I stated, I don't think it would hurt things too much because there are a billion other cards that can go in that slot and just be slightly, like in certain instances, they'd actually be better. They'd be more synergistic with some of these decks. But however, with Monstrous Rage just being the kind of the silver bullet in this slot that's just strictly better than everything else. For that reason, like I like it when Wizards actually does ban cards for that very reason, for the diversity of what could be used in this slot. And if there ever was a card that just like pushes away, like good luck printing anything in that slot again. It's kind of like when Lightning Bolt exists in a format. It's like, okay, you have all these other cards that are slightly like Lightning Bolts, but this one's just strictly better than everything because it's just such the extra that you get from it. And that's the role that I'm thinking Monstrous Rage is providing for these, anything that has red that turns a card sideways is going to run this. So again, those are my top 5 cards. I'd be interested in hearing your lists, as maybe in the future I'll have my thoughts together more. But I think these are fun videos to do while we're on our little Kevin walks. As I can kind of boast and brag about how beautiful, look at that sunset it is here in good old South Central Utah. And I wish you guys could like just kind of smell these juniper trees and these wildflower flowers. It's quite the scene here. So hope you enjoyed this video as I ranted about the top 5 cards that I would ban from Standard. So once again, go through my list. We got the Stormchaser's Talent, which is a pet card of mine that I love. Has a lot of synergy. It's kind of I wouldn't say honorable mention. I do think it's ban worthy. We have the Screaming Nemesis, which probably should be number 1, just how annoyed I am by how obnoxiously annoyed, can I put those 2 double negatives together, about why Wizards would print this card. Like Boros Reckoner was good enough. And then we have the Cori-Steel Cutter again, which is, I think that Wizards does realize that that's a mistake. If I were a betting man, that's probably going to be the first one to go. And if we ever do see a ban, I know that Wizards is very hesitant to ban because what a bad taste it leaves in the player base. Because you invest in some cards and it gets banned and you have a whole deck around it. But again, there's plenty of other. It's not like your prowess would not exist without it. Then we have the Beanstalk. It's just that's a card that it's just obnoxious. That card is absolutely obnoxious with the amount of draw. and the board states that it creates. And then last but not least is Monstrous Rage. And I could cry and whine about Monstrous Rage for so long, because that card's it's modern playable. And in my opinion, cards that see play in modern, I mean, that should be like, right there should be kind of the baseline of like, okay, maybe we should actually think about this card for standard. If it's being played in modern and so dominant in modern, is it something that we can justify having? I know that was like Wizards of the Coast wants cards from standard. They want to be able to excite people and be like, okay, here's some cards in standard that we can play in modern. But at this point, I mean, that was the whole point to Modern Horizons. That's why they printed it, so that they could still have fresh new things that go into modern without having to worry about pushing them in standard, because ultimately they break the format. So again, I'd like to hear your list in the comment section below. And yeah, what would you like to see from this channel? I'm going to try to post, probably not daily, but we're going to get out a kind of a mix, a variety of videos again. You'll see deck techs, you'll see kind of me just shooting the breeze on our little walks. This is something that I try to do every day, is get these dogs out for a walk or absolutely. I should have recorded before we went, because they typically get a walk at 7 o'clock and it's 8 o'clock. And we had a full-blown meltdown by this one right here, by Buttons. He was crying. And if you've never seen dog tears, I'll have to show you Buttons if he doesn't get his daily walk, and he'll have an absolute meltdown. So we'll be out in this trail until it gets too unbearably hot. Coming up here in like June and July, this area gets incredibly hot. So we're going to enjoy it while it does. And so in the comment section below, let me know some topics you'd like me to talk about in the state of standard. Like on the Rogue Deck Builder channel, I am going to try to keep it magic oriented. So I'm going to be talking about brewing and the meta and all that good stuff. And if you're looking for other rants, of course I do this daily. I typically do these daily vlogs over at my Gone Rogue Games channel. And we also have the financial advice over at the Rogue Market. So looking for those. Thanks for sticking around, everyone. Hopefully we can actually revive this dead channel. And I'm back to having fun playing games. We actually played some One Piece today too, which was very refreshing. That game's pretty cool. I'm not going to spam it on this channel. If I do ever do any sort of One Piece videos, I'll probably do on the Gone Rogue Games channel, just to, you know, keep this one more magic oriented. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching.